In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a pen out of resin and Lego pieces. So I used two different forms of molds. The first one is one that I made out of melamine. So just had some scrap pieces laying around and figured I'd put them to use. So just cut the pieces to size and then made a really simple box out of them. And then I also bought some silicone pieces to hold the pen tube, and that way I can just peel them right away when I'm finished. But be sure to seal up any of the openings or cracks with hot glue or some kind of tape of your choice if you're not careful. So I took a cup that I didn't mind putting in the recycle bin when I finished, measured out equal parts in a measuring cup of water, and then marked the cup accordingly, but did not want to waste a measuring cup to measure out my resin. So this is a really simple way to do it and not waste any cups and get yourself in trouble at home. Then I used a craft stick that I just super glued together, put it in the drill, and used that to mix up the resin. That's a quick, easy way of kind of using pieces that I didn't mind losing or throwing in the trash after the fact. So from there, just took the Lego pieces, just set them in, clearly no system at all, and well, not clearly because you can't see the video very well, but just put them in and ended up needing more pieces than I had in that little holder. So put more in and then pour the resin on top. And I did shake it to make sure the resin went down. Here's the other mold that I just got at the dollar store. This is an actual ice tray with silicone in the bottom. So it's probably an easier way to go and probably preferred versus buying and making melamine. And then made a little scrap wood table to cast both of these at the same time in the pressure pot. So the silicone pieces that I bought, those come off really, really easily, and you can reuse them over and over as long as you don't mess them up. But the hard part was getting the melamine apart. I did not use any mold release spray, which is not the best idea. If you spend the money on that, I'm sure you would be able to get this apart much more quickly and easily than I did trying to bust it with a hammer and chisel. So eventually I got it apart, and you can kind of see what it looks like. All the bubbles are gone from the pressure pot. But I do have that extra amount of resin from the distance on the silicone pieces that I will have to get and turn it on the lathe. So here, mold release again. It's a good idea to buy that stuff. I don't know why I didn't use it. But here I used the bit that I bought, which is much more helpful than trying to sand it, and I end up going out of whack anytime I sand it. So this bit just gets you down to the tube, so that way you can put it on the mandrel, put it in the lathe, and then turn all the pieces, and it'll be flush with the pen tube. So there you can see right where you get down to where it's shiny, stop. So after that, this one that I had in the silicone ice tray, the downside is you can't get the tube inside that like you can on the other one without buying some smaller silicone pieces to shove in the end, or making your own, I guess. So once I did that, got it cut to about the length of the tube, put it on the lathe, and drilled out the center so that way I could glue the tube in after the fact. So I like using the drill bit on the lathe just because that way it's a lot straighter right in the middle of the blank for me whenever I'm trying to drill something. I'm not very good at drilling straight holes in my drill press the way I do it, so this is a better way for me to handle it. So once you get the hole drilled out, you're good to go to take the pen tube, rough it up a little bit with some sandpaper, then put some CA glue on top of that, shove it into the pen blank, and I like to use activator just so that way it'll make it seal up and the glue will set in no time, as you can see on my glove. So once everything's set, the glue is set and the tubes are all ready, I put them over on the lathe and just started turning. So these, I did leave both of them pretty thick. They're fatter than normal, so at the end you'll notice that the pin kit actually doesn't work extremely well the way I had it, where these are too fat. But my goal of leaving these as fat pins is that way you could see a lot more of the Lego pieces than if I went down really thin. And at this point I sanded them down with some sandpaper, and before I went to the final finishing with the pads, I took some super glue or CA glue, filled in any of the little holes that had been kicked out during turning, and then some activator just to make it seal up quickly. And this serves its purpose. It fills in the voids and gets it where it's relatively clear. After that, I went through the 9 different pads that I have here, which go up to about 12,000 grit, so really clear. Then use some car polish to make it even shinier. So once all the pieces are turned, shined up, polished up, take them off the mandrel and have the pin kit pieces ready. So the good key I like to do here is figure out which ones, if any ends have any kind of imperfections that you want to hide, those are the ones that you would like to put the part of the pin that's going to hide it, which is the, I don't even know what it's called, the clip, I guess. So here, I really do like this pin press for putting things together. You don't have to have one at all, but I sure like it because it's much easier for me to apply the same amount of pressure and ease into it versus me trying to squeeze it with any other hand tools. As long as you line it up right. So it is a little tricky sometimes, but I managed to make it happen. So here you can see it's a little chunky. It's a chunky pin, so this is the piece where you can really tell that I made it too fat, but again, I wanted to make it fat. The only downside is when you do it this way, you can see that the clip actually doesn't go down flush. So I ended up taking it back apart and then bending the clip more so it would contour a little bit towards it. So here, just keep slowly squeezing the pin kit so that way when it turns, the ink will come out the desired length. So that's that one and what it looks like all turned. So I didn't zoom in much here, but you can see an idea of what that pin clip looks like. And here's the other pin I've made at the beginning just to show you what the 2 different ones look like. So